Can an assassin who wants to retire from the underworld truly have a peaceful end? The organization absolutely does not accept traitors. To retreat means death. But this dangerous profession was elevated to a new level by one man. He specializes in hunting down colleagues who want to wash their hands of the trade, but constantly walking by the river. How can one avoid getting wet? A sudden accident turned this high-ranking man into prey in the eyes of others. Faced with a life-threatening danger, the man was forced to abandon his principles, aligning with his mission's target. However, against endless pursuits, how will he defuse the crisis and escape hell? The story must begin 2 weeks ago. That day, the latest mission from the street organization Sam was to assassinate a colleague who had retired. This person had suddenly disappeared a few years prior while on a mission and had not been heard from since. Sam spent a considerable amount of time to find a clue. The 3 assassins involved had transformed, becoming art dealers serving the elite. As most of their works were illegal, they were very cautious, only accepting clients through reliable referrals. Fortunately, Sam had the right connection to approach the target, but this intermediary had a bad reputation, having committed many cruel and sinful acts. Upon meeting, Sam said nothing, immediately pulled the trigger. Afterwards, Sam opened the opponent's phone using facial recognition, sent an invitation to meet the target, saying a new client wanted to find Journey to the West artwork and the information had been verified. A week later, Sam successfully met the target, B, who lived in a luxurious villa, impeccably dressed, looking as if he had completely abandoned his assassin career. But Sam knew well that in this industry, there was no such thing as retirement. Anyone who wanted to quit was a traitor and would eventually be eliminated. Brake seemed prepared. As soon as he heard Sam ask about the artwork, he immediately realized Sam's true intention and instantly drew a gun, pointing it at Sam. B's face was full of contempt and confidence, saying that young people were all arrogant, not knowing what maturity was, but Sam remained calm. He used his phone to remotely control a gun and finished off Brake. After completing the assassination mission, Sam went to the racetrack to report the situation to his boss, Augustus. Although Augustus was arrogant, he commanded a network of hired assassins, so Sam completing missions quickly and efficiently was all too familiar. Therefore, he wasn't too worried and directly assigned Sam a new mission. Despite being dissatisfied with the high workload, Sam accepted because he needed this job to sustain his life. Fortunately, this time's assassination target was right near his home, meaning less travel and convenience to visit home. But when he saw the target's information, Sam suddenly tensed up. Charles, this target, was the only one who truly worried him. A born assassin, his reputation in the industry terrified people. So why was he now an assassination target? Sam pondered while quickly dismantling all tracking devices, then drove home. As an assassin, Sam couldn't have weaknesses, couldn't let enemies get the upper hand, but everyone needs a home. The cozy little house in the forest, where his wife waited at the door, was where Sam felt safest. Upon seeing Charles's information, Sam's wife, Nona, couldn't help but worry because the opponent was a legendary assassin. To reassure his wife, Sam pretended not to care, saying that this old man with a conscience was nothing to worry about. He had killed so many people, his accumulated experience was enough to deal with it. But Nona was not at ease, constantly reminding Sam not to be complacent because Charles was not only accurate with his shots, but also determined to see things through. That night, Sam dreamed of Brake's death, woke up, got out of bed, turned on the night light, picked up a shovel, and began digging the ground to vent. Then he checked his weapon box multiple times. In the assassin world, everyone thinks they are elite. Until Sam appeared, taking their lives, they realized there were always bigger fish. Although Charles had a resounding reputation, to Sam, he was no different from previous targets. Just careful preparation would be enough to deal with him. But to be safe, Sam still prepared a backup plan. A few days later, Charles went to church to pray. Sam immediately followed, intending to strike while Charles was focused on prayer, but unexpectedly, even after retiring, Charles's assassin intuition was still very sharp. Sam failed for the first time. Not only could he not assassinate him, but he was also subdued by Charles. It turned out Charles had recognized the danger even before Sam entered the church. Sam decided to resist, but was kicked down by Charles, running out in pain. Charles sped off in his car. Sam immediately gave chase, unaware that his boss Augustus was also at the scene. Nevertheless, everyone in the organization still believed in Sam because he had never failed before. But this time would surely disappoint them because Charles had gone home to urge his wife, DiTi, to pack their bags and flee. Charles opened the attic compartment, took out a large suitcase, checked passports and cash, intending to take DiTi with him. But as soon as they stepped out the door, a bullet shattered the window. Sam had caught up. Charles reacted quickly, signaling Danny Kaye to follow. But as soon as he stepped out, he saw a flat tire, enraged. Charles fired continuously at Sam, but was easily dodged by his opponent. The two faced each other tensely across the car. Charles spoke first, trying to make peace, saying he had spared Sam's life at the church. The opponent should also repay the favor, but Sam replied that a life was a life. His mission was to assassinate Charles, and he absolutely couldn't miss this good opportunity. In the next second, both stepped out from behind the car simultaneously, but as they prepared to pull the trigger, they were interrupted by unexpected gunfire. A group of masked gunmen of unknown identity fired wildly at them. Under the powerful assault, Charles and Sam could only hide behind the car. The strange thing was that they didn't know these gunmen at all, so with just a glance, the two decided to cooperate, first working together to repel the enemy, then dealing with their own conflict. But as soon as they took down a few gunmen, 3 subordinates sent by the boss also appeared. Strangely, they fired at Sam. Hearing the voices of the 3, Sam immediately became vigilant. The leader was a black man named Isaac, who alone could match an entire army, the second strongest assassin in the world. Beside Isaac was a woman named Wicked, also a notorious assassin. Escaping these two would not be easy. Before Wicked charged, Sam stood up and pulled the trigger. Immediately, a deafening explosion rattled their ears. Taking advantage of the enemy's panic, Sam quickly led Charles and Danny Kaye to flee. The 3 rushed through narrow alleys. Finally, before the assassins could catch up, they hid in an empty, safe house. Confirming the immediate area was temporarily safe, Sam immediately punched Charles straight in the nose. Afterwards, he asked why Isaac had appeared. Charles admitted that earlier, due to a tormented conscience, he refused an assassination mission from the organization and was therefore being hunted. Charles hoped Sam would understand. Even the coldest assassin has a little conscience, but Sam didn't care at all because he always completed missions on time. As Sam prepared to act against Charles, Danny Kaye suddenly screamed that she was pregnant, begging Sam to spare her, then painfully clutched her stomach. Seeing this, Sam hesitated slightly but quickly rushed out, driving home not to spare Charles but to retrieve more weapons, determined to absolutely complete the mission because he had never failed until now and couldn't ruin his reputation. On the way back, Sam called his boss Augustus, saying the mission had a slight hitch, needed more time, then frankly asked why Isaac also took this mission. Augustus replied that it was the client's request, which made Sam feel utterly ashamed. It was the first time his abilities had been doubted. Clearly Charles couldn't stay put, so Sam drove straight to the airport. New information from the organization indicated Charles might be flying to Mexico. As Sam was planning his next move, Isaac and Wicked drove up. The 3 exchanged a few greetings, weapons in hand. Finally, Sam had to accept cooperating with them. Sam didn't like others cleaning up his messes. As the self-proclaimed strongest assassin, he had to kill Charles himself to prove his abilities hadn't diminished. Isaac saw Sam's stubbornness, didn't interfere further, only said if needed, he could help fake a death certificate, helping Sam completely escape his current life. Sam wavered a bit, then Isaac started the car and left. Not long after, Charles led Danny Kaye to the airport. Sam immediately drew his weapon, carefully approaching the outer fence, aiming precisely at Charles in the airport. But before he could choose the best shooting angle, he saw a masked gunman preparing to block. Sam angrily pulled the trigger, shooting down the gunman. Charles was startled by the sudden gunshot, quickly drew his gun to protect Danny Kaye, but when they reached the boarding gate, the door inside had already closed. While Charles was confused, a black car sped directly towards them. Unexpectedly, the person in the car was Sam. But as soon as he finished speaking, gunshots rang out continuously again. Isaac and Wicked hadn't gone far. Seeing Charles being rescued, they opened fire. Sam and Charles coordinated perfectly amidst the hail of bullets. The car broke through the encirclement, speeding out of the airport. Once safe, Charles breathed a sigh of relief and asked Sam why he saved them. Sam gently replied, "It was just a momentary impulse. If you don't want me to change my mind, shut up and don't ask useless questions." Charles wasn't afraid. Instead, he invited Sam to cooperate because now they had a common enemy. Sam didn't refuse because he understood the organization's nature. Traitors never had a good end. A few minutes later, Sam led the two to a secluded wooden house in the forest. For now, no one would find them. Danny Kaye was pregnant and needed rest. They prepared to rest, discuss plans, and their next actions. Regarding Sam's sudden decision of conscience, Nona didn't blame him but was happy to see the change. Because as her father said, everything that happens or changes has a reason. Sam wasn't sure if this decision was right or wrong, only that the first step had been taken, even if it was a momentary impulse that brought danger. Strangely, when Sam washed his face and looked up, Nona had disappeared. It turned out that from beginning to end, Nona was just an imagination, a family image in Sam's mind, actually a reflection of the guilt in his heart. Charles said nothing more. He was also an assassin, understood Sam's remorse and pressure, so the two naturally discussed their next plan. When Charles saw Sam's armory, he smiled contentedly. With these weapons, the chance of victory increased significantly. Thus, opponents who were destined to draw knives and face each other, by fate, became allies, together fighting against the organization's relentless pursuit. DiTi asked Charles why he suddenly had a conscience. The opponent replied that he had reached an age where he was tired of the life of killing and naturally wanted to wash his hands of it. Sam seriously found it a bit funny, because he suddenly remembered the first time he met Charles, the opponent was repenting in church. Could it be that just by praying a few words to God, the sins they committed would disappear? Sam had never had faith, so he completely couldn't understand Charles's thoughts, but the opponent subtly said that God brought the two of them together in this situation. It must be destiny. Having said that, Charles ignored Sam's reaction, stood up, and said he needed it for tonight. When Charles left the room, Sam was still pondering the words. Without realizing it, his thoughts began to change. That night, Sam dreamed of his past with Nona. At that time, Nona was his assassination target. Sam used affection to trick Nona and killed her on a date. Although the mission was ultimately completed excellently, this left Sam filled with guilt, which is why he imagined Nona was still alive. Waking up, Sam saw it was still dark outside, so he slept in a bit more. Unbeknownst to him, Isaac had now led a group of mercenaries into the forest, closing in on the small house. Fortunately, Sam had arranged sensors for several hundred meters around. As soon as the mercenaries entered the area, the alarm system in the house immediately sounded. Charles also saw the soldiers on the hill, quickly rushed into the house to wake a sleeping DiTi and find a hiding place. The soldiers broke in. Charles immediately pulled the trigger. The danger was defused, and another enemy was also easily taken down by Sam. Before they could breathe a sigh of relief, more soldiers flooded into the house. Charles proactively attacked first, shooting down the tallest one. With a soft sound, the main battle officially began. Thanks to their excellent coordination, they easily dealt with the first wave of enemies. As Sam prepared to pick up a weapon, a knife was unexpectedly pressed against his throat. The attacker was Wicked, who had been hidden, but she was overwhelmed by emotion. In that situation, she still wanted to play a stimulating game with Sam, resulting in him disarming her and snatching her gun. Sam was about to pull the trigger when Isaac appeared behind him, caught between two top assassins. Sam knew he couldn't guarantee a win, so he tried to stall. He told Isaac that actually, 10 years ago, the boss knew he had started a family and intended to leave the organization. Over the years, he had been monitoring Isaac's side, which is why he suddenly disappeared. Isaac was astonished, knowing Sam wouldn't lie, thought for a few seconds, then put his gun down, admitting that the boss did send him, but the target wasn't Sam. They came here based on a phone call. As soon as he finished speaking, Charles and DiTi emerged one after another. It turned out that during their few days of rest in the house, DiTi had secretly contacted an acquaintance far away. The organization used this call to pinpoint their hiding place. Charles was furious upon hearing this, not only scolding DiTi, but also confiscating the self-defense gun she was given. The issue between the two was resolved. Isaac called the boss, saying the mission was completed and wanted to visit. The boss, unsuspecting, happily invited him to the racetrack. Hanging up, Isaac asked about the next step. Sam seemed to have a plan ready. At this point, everyone understood each other. Isaac threw the car keys to Charles and took Wicked away. Looking at the dead mercenaries on the ground, Sam finally decided to quickly approach Charles and open his hand. Not long after, Charles drove DiTi out of the forest. Stopping at a deserted bridge, Sam followed but didn't intend to go with Charles. Instead, he wanted to go alone to the meeting at the racetrack to meet the boss, to atone for his past mistakes and regrets. Seeing Sam's determination, Charles didn't stop him, only wished him success, and quickly parted ways. Sam immediately went to the racetrack, pulled out a severed finger, and declared the assassination mission complete. The boss was somewhat suspicious because news reports stated the victim had facial injuries and an undetermined identity. Sam was worried because this finger wasn't Charles's, but one he took from a mercenary. However, the boss didn't pursue the matter further because Sam tried to compensate for his hesitation and now brought evidence that couldn't be denied. He understood how the organization dealt with traitors. Confirming there was no longer any danger, Sam asked the boss for his freedom. Because unlike colleagues who disappeared, he didn't disappear midway, completed the assassination and reported, so he owed nothing to the organization. But he was too naive. The boss wouldn't easily let go of his golden goose. Immediately after, Sam felt a sharp pain in his neck. 3 seconds later, he fainted, vaguely dreaming of Obreak again. When he woke up, he found himself suspended in midair, a strong man continuously hitting him, making Sam vomit blood. In the video, the boss smiled maniacally, telling his henchmen to bring the camera closer to show the brutal scene. The strong man showed no mercy, punching and kicking repeatedly, but even as the chain choked him, Sam still didn't reveal Charles's location. In the chaos, he saw Nona's reflection again and finally understood why he spared Charles and Danny Kaye. Because he saw in them the outcome that he and Nona could have had. His body exploded with strength through the fierce battle. Sam eliminated all the assassins in the warehouse. Hearing the fighting stop, the boss called his henchmen, but no one answered. Realizing what had happened, he screamed Sam's name, saying it was all the client's request. He had no choice, but Sam ignored him, taking his gear to the lake where he used to date Nona. Unexpectedly, Nona, whom he thought was dead, reappeared. Sam thought it was a hallucination, but she lifted her shirt and said it was all real now. It turned out Sam hadn't fatally wounded Nona before, allowing her to miraculously survive. Now their roles were reversed. Sam became the organization's traitor. Nona became the executioner. Even though he knew he would die, Sam still didn't reveal Charles and Danique's location. As he closed his eyes, waiting for death, a bullet hit Nona. It turned out Charles was ready on the other side of the forest with a sniper rifle, as his file stated, the world's best marksman, saving Sam from thousands of miles away. The story ends. The boss, who thought he had an absolute victory, received a call from Sam. Unexpectedly, Nona reappeared in Sam's car, but this time it was unclear if it was real or an illusion. The movie ends here. If interested, you can watch the original exit protocol. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. More great movies will be in the next installment.